Hey everybody, it's that time of year where everyone is busy in the kitchen doing their holiday baking, and so I thought I would follow trend and do the same and bake some cookies for my really good friends. So I've got out my mixer, and this particular recipe is challenging for the old girl, but she's up to the challenge tonight. I normally double this recipe, and I will link it below in case you're interested in making some cookies for your friends too. So we need a mixer. You're going to need eggs, and the recipe calls for 2 eggs. Of course, I doubled it, so I am going to use 4, but really I'm going to use 5 because some of my chicken eggs are really little. So just to compensate for that. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup of pumpkin. I don't use canned pumpkin. I grow my own squash, and so I just substitute squash for the pumpkin. And last year I grew so many squash that I had leftovers when I started to bring in the squash this year. So I just processed them, cooked them, and then froze it in 2-cup quantities so I could use it for baking whenever I want. So we've got some, this is butternut squash. I have whole wheat flour, salt. It calls for 1/2 teaspoon, but I'm doubling it. So 1 teaspoon, cinnamon, again, 1/2 teaspoon, but I'm doubling it. So 1 teaspoon, and it also calls for peanut butter. So normally I use the sugar-free or low sugar peanut butter, but I'm running low. So my friends get a super sugary treat. So we're gonna use the Kraft Crunchy in the recipe tonight. So those are the ingredients that you need for this recipe. And right now you're probably thinking, ooh, gross, those are holiday cookies. But let me show you the friends that I'm making it for. I'll introduce you. Would you like a cookie? Do you want a cookie for Christmas? Okay. So to your bowl, you're going to add 4 eggs. So pretend that was 4. The recipe calls for 1/2 cup of pumpkin, but I'm going to use 1 cup of squash, and I freeze this in 2-cup batches. So I'll just do a rough measurement here. Kind of roughly know, but I want to be close to sure. Dogs won't care if it's not perfectly correct. So there's my cup of pumpkin. Then it calls for 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, so I will do 1 teaspoon. And Tulip and Tilly really like cinnamon, so it's a heaping. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt, so 1 teaspoon of salt. They're not watching their salt. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, so I'm going to do 4, and let's be honest, who doesn't like peanut butter? So we'll do those heaping too. This is why I like baking over the holidays, because really this recipe doesn't need to be exact. You know, my friends are, you know, very understanding of my ability to bake. So there's lots of leeway there. So I did my eggs, my pumpkin, my peanut butter, my salt, my cinnamon, and I'm just gonna whip that together here. Good. Now we need to add, it calls for 2.5 cups of whole wheat flour. So we are going to add 5, and that's why she gets a little bogged down. That's a lot of flour. So we're gonna start slow. We're gonna build up to it. start with 2. See how we go there. I'm just gonna go for the gusto. Maybe a little bit more in the... Okay. And then, just as you kind of get mixing it, you can add a little bit of water to help kind of with the process. So I am going to add a little bit of water, but this should be a fairly dry. Gotta hold it down. Chunks are flying. Okay, gotta turn on a little bit. This is a stiff dough. So you can see how kind of pasty it is, and that's exactly how you want the dough to be. And at this time, I'm going to turn the oven. What am I going to turn the oven to? 350 degrees. My husband has a bit of a cast iron problem these days, and so he's been buying cast iron. I think we're up to like 20 cast iron pans. Who needs that much? This is his newest one. Look at this monster. He's just finished seasoning it, so I have to clean it out of the oven. Okay, so the oven is turned on. Now my countertop is mostly dry, so I'm going to sprinkle it with flour. There we go, sprinkled, away we go. So you want to make sure that your surface is nicely floured. It just helps with rolling the dough. And this is very stiff dough, so there it is there. Actually, before that, I'm just gonna work it into a ball of some description. And, you know, like I said, my friends are very thankful for these treats and these cookies that they get. So they're not very picky about consistency. I don't even think flavor, because they eat it so fast, could really be anything. But I do try and, you know, give it a good mix here. Oh, shoot. Okay. Here we are. Try and get as much as you can out of the bottom, because I am going to be making another batch. I don't want to leave bits in there. Now I just kind of push it together, make sure it's kind of together-ish. It's a good thing I'm not making you Christmas cookies. I bet that's what you're thinking right now. And then you roll it out to about 1/4 of an inch thick. You roll the dough to about 1/4 of an inch thick. And again, doesn't really matter what it looks like. Move my flour so you can see this process. And it is hard to roll out, so be patient. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, so it doesn't matter. You'll see what I mean when I get out my cookie cutter. You know what would work really good for this? You know those old laundry dryers where it had the rollers? You could just put this in and roll it out. Okay, we're gonna call that good. I'm huffing and puffing. Now we're gonna cut it. So imagine this is my holiday Christmas cutters, but not really, because I just cut it in straight lines. Again, My friends don't care. So I just use a pizza cutter and I cut strips. So away we go. These are the most forgiving holiday treats you can bake. I highly recommend it. And if you yourself don't have any furry friends, I'm sure you have friends that have some. So you could always wrap these in a nice little, wrap and give it to them. Any really little ones, I put back in to a ball and I roll it out with the next batch. Woo! Got a little bit crazy there. Whoa. That's for a really good dog, that big cookie. Okay, so these little bits here, these little ones, I kind of pick up and like I said, I put in a ball, I go around and take the ones that don't really look like cookies or that will get burnt in the process because these do bake for quite a long time. So if they're really small, they're gonna go really dark, which is overcooked. And again, my friends don't care because I've snuck a few of those in over the years and nobody complains, but I like to kind of make them all the same size. Fair's fair. I don't like one to get a bigger treat than the other when it's treat time. So, okay, so now I just transfer these to baking dishes. There, look at that. So I have this little ball of kind of like the edge trimmings. So then I just roll that out into something that looks kind of uniform. Oh, I don't like that. Dogs won't care. I just have to keep telling myself, the dogs don't care. They really don't. Okay. And one last little one. That's festive. That one could be a snowball. And I did a triangle on the last sheet, so I got some shapes. Okay, so I have 3 trays. I'm gonna put them in the oven and they are going to bake for 40 minutes. So at 20 minutes, I'm gonna set a timer, flip them, like just change the shells so they all kind of cook evenly and then take them out. And while I'm waiting, I'm gonna start on the next batch. Well, we made 4 double batches of the dog cookies, the pumpkin peanut butter dog cookies, and we'll see what my friends think. Come here, Tilly Billy. Come here. You want a cookie? Can you sit? Sit. 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 Happy holidays, everybody. Love you too.